All right, everybody. Oh, happy day. I hope you're doing just insanely well. This video is dedicated to when a client dies prematurely, when a client passes away before 2 years, when you've sold them a final expense life insurance policy or just life insurance in general. The last thing I want you to do is be on your heels when you're trying to help these great people. So one of your prospects passes away prior to the 2-year mark. You want to make sure you don't make mistakes here, especially when you're dealing with a grieving family, because I've seen so many mistakes made from brand new insurance agents that had joined certain organizations that gave them some very, very bad advice, like telling a prospect when they call you and you sell them something. Oh, don't worry. When you die, we're going to deliver that check within hours. We're going to deliver that check within 24 hours. That's how we do it here at blankety blank insurance company. And nothing, and I mean nothing, can be farther from the truth. We've got to know what is really going to take place so that we can truly take care of our clients and our prospects' families when they're left behind. Because the last thing you want to do is be bleeding stuff into their ears that they hear, and then you're going to get an insurance complaint because you're not utilizing best practices. So we're going to dive into all levels of details with you about how to handle a family member when you find out that your client died under the 2-year mark. And I hope this helps you today. So my name is Jason. I'm your friend in the business. I do run a national insurance agency here at jasonfinalexpense.com. I'm very blessed to recruit and partner and just work shoulder to shoulder with some of the most amazing insurance agents across this nation. We sell life and Medicare and annuities face to face, but yes, in the telespace. So free resources for your taking at jasonfinalexpense.com. And I do appreciate you joining with me in this content today. I hope it helps you in a big way. So when a client passes away, the first thing that you want to do is grab your files. Yes, grab your files. You're going to need them because so many insurance agents don't know what they need. And then the insurance company is going to give you, the agent, a form. It's going to be a couple pages deep, and it's going to ask you these types of questions. Who answered the health questions? You face-to-face insurance agents may have made a check mark when you were sitting there checking out Mrs. Susie or Mr. Joe's health. They're going to say, who answered the health questions? They're going to ask you, did you know something that you didn't tell us? They're going to kind of put you on your heels, and you're just trying to help this grieving family. The last thing I want you to do is get into a position where you're nervous or you're in a place that you don't know how to handle these forms. So they're going to ask you, who else was in the home with you when you sold this policy? If you're doing final expense telesales, they're going to ask you, who else was in the room? Who else was around if you knew? And you want to be able to answer these questions clearly. This is why when you sell insurance, you should utilize what's called a fact finder. You've got a piece of paper or a couple pieces of paper that you're documenting the date that you sold this sweet consumer, the time as well, because some of these insurance companies want to know the time that you sold them and the date. So make sure you write these little dates down. It takes you 2 seconds when you're selling, but the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, crud, when did I sell Jason a policy? I don't even know. I just know I got paid. That's a bad place to be for you, the insurance agent. So write down those dates, just a best practice for you. But they're going to ask you, the insurance company will ask you, what date did you sell? For example, Jason, if you sold me, what time did you sell them? Was there any health questions that you failed to ask? Was there something that the client didn't disclose to us, the insurance company? They're going to ask you all these questions. What did you know about them? Was there medications that you didn't tell us about? Was there something that you might have want to be, forthcoming and you didn't? They're going to put you in a place where you feel really nervous. If you have a voice application or a paper application where you got the initials of the client placed on every single health question, you're going to feel more comfortable as you're helping the company complete their due diligence. This is called contestability. Every insurance company across the planet is going to exercise their right to look at medical records to make sure that the prospect was truthful and honest based on this deposition of a yes, no, yes, no. Are you on oxygen? No. Do you have COPD? No. They're going to make sure that those no's were truthfully no's, because there's some folks that would lie to you, and the insurance company is going to make sure that their money leaves right and the money leaves well. And if a consumer did lie on that application, the family will only find that they're going to get their money back plus a tiny little bit of interest, not the death benefit. And that's going to not be a happy day for the sweet people that are being left behind. So this is why the 2-year contestability is something that you want to know what's going to take place. You want to know how to prepare for this before it ever takes place so that you can guide a grieving family. This is about the families. This isn't about you. It's about them. So make sure that you explain when a person passes away. Explain to the ones that are left behind. If it's been under 2 years, be like, hey, Mrs. Johnson, I'm going to go ahead and get the claim form started. This is very normal. Understand that the company, because they died under 2 years, might ask for medical records. The quicker we get those, the quicker that we can get everything resolved in this claim and get you taken care of. All right. So know that this is part of the process. Explain that it's part of the process on the front side so that the family isn't sitting there a week later tapping their watch going, where's my money? Because that's going to happen anyway. So you've got to let them know that there's something called contestability in the first 2 years. It can be taken care of sometimes within a week or so if you really work and let the family know. The quicker I get the medical records for the insurance company, if they need them, the quicker you get paid. They'll put prioritization on this, but they will look at medical records. It's going to happen. So understand, in the first 2 years, they're going to look at the medical records and make sure that those health questions match their health. So if they told you they're not on oxygen and they look at MedRex and find out Miss Susie's on oxygen, they're not going to pay out the claim for 10 grand, for example. They're going to give her money back plus interest. That's very good to know. And never tell a consumer that, oh yeah, we pay out death claims in like 12 hours. We pay it out the same day. It's such a bunch of hooey. Let's say they passed away. The company has to process this claim, right? Think about it. If it happened, let's say they died on day before Thanksgiving. Well, the home offices are shut down. How are they going to send a check out? And they're going to check out that client's health before they send that check out anyway, if they died in the first 2 years, or if they committed, let's say, the S word. Okay. There's always an S clause. You know what I'm talking about? The suicide clause in every policy. If a person passes away of suicide in the first 2 years, with like 99% of the insurance companies, they're not going to cut a check to the families. They're going to give them back their premium that they paid plus interest. That's not going to be much money. And that person expecting 10 grand is not going to be real happy with you if you didn't explain this to them. So you got to understand that there's always a 2-year suicide clause, 2-year contestability period. Not all companies will exercise it, but 99.9% of every insurance company and carrier that I've ever interfaced with as a final expense agent and as a life insurance agent, they have always exercised this. So when you're handling a consumer, you just want to make sure that things are just tight. Make sure things are right. Ask the questions. It doesn't take more than 2 seconds to ask these things. You're also going to ask the question. This is very important because it's going to come up on your contestability form. Do you have any other life insurance in force? If they say yes, write down the name of the company, write down the death benefit that they have, and any information that you have on that. Even if you're not replacing it, because the contestability form is going to ask, do they have other insurance in force? What is that name? Oops. And then they're going to ask you, is this a replacement? And some agents just write business, replace it, and then don't take good notes. And then they're sitting there on their heels as insurance agents trying to handle this form out, and they're fumbling. They're nervous. Their blood pressure is rising because they didn't take really good notes. It's not hard to write, do you have insurance in place? Is this going to replace their stuff? Yes or no? Because when you're doing an electronic application, it goes poof. That bullet leaves, it's gone. And you want to be able to have good notes so that you can remember, so that you can recall something that happened maybe a year and a half ago. It's very, very critical that you write down on your notes or digitally. Make sure that you have that information available to you. It'll help you in the contestability portion of your claim that you're going to be filling out to really help this prospect get their money as fast as possible. So in the first 2 years, understand that the insurance company is going to ask you a ton of health questions about the prospect that you should have the answers to because you read the application. They're going to ask you, do they have coverage? Do they not have coverage? Was this person maybe not sharp? How were they mentally? How were they physically? If you sold them via phone sales, did you ask them the health questions? They're going to say, who recorded these health questions? This is why it's such a blessing to do telesales with an insurance carrier that records their living, breathing voice, because that, believe it or not, backs you up. You've got the consumer who was alive saying, nope, I don't have this health question. Nope, I don't have that health problem. Nope, I don't have that health problem. And it's their living, breathing voice. Do you have insurance with this or any other company? Yes, I do. Is this going to replace it? Nope. You've got their living, breathing voice, not just you checking off a box, believe it or not, which isn't as much protection for you, the agent, and you're going to be feeling like maybe you've got a little bit of panic in you when you can't remember things. So take good notes, even when you're doing telesales. It'll save you a lot of frustration when you're trying to fill out this contestability form. And then just make sure that you explain to the families what the process will look like. If they understand what the process looks like, they won't be in a place of panic. You're truly guarding the greatest generation on the planet. You're guarding their families. These people matter. Make sure you explain what this process looks like, and then they won't panic either. Not saying they're going to like it when you tell them we may need medical records possibly because they died in the first 2 years. Mrs. Johnson, this is a totally normal event. 99% of the companies will always validate the very questions that mom asked. They're just going to make sure that everything was accurate, and then we'll get everything taken care of for you. All right. Let them know what the process looks like. You can't promise that that death benefit's going to be a big one if they discover something that's not accurate. And this is why your responses of accuracy are going to really matter, as well as, more importantly, the consumer that passed away, what they put forth is going to make the difference between maybe a $10,000 check being given to the family or maybe the premium back plus pocket change. But never tell the families that are left behind that, oh yeah, our company's going to pay everything out in 12 hours, 5 hours, 24 hours. You're going to get that money immediately the same day. Nothing can be farther from the truth. It does not happen with the snap of your fingers when a death happens under 2 years. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I've never seen it happen, especially when you're dealing with holidays, with weekends. I don't know claims departments that are open 24/7. If a person passes away at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and all those offices are closed on Eastern Time Zone and there comes the weekend, how are you going to tell me that that consumer is going to get a check cut? Even if it was post 2 years, how do you think they're going to get that death certificate in their hands? Most insurance companies want an original death certificate in their possession, and that doesn't happen in hours. The medical examiner will release that. The health department will release the death certificates depending on the state. And that is something that does not happen within hours. The funeral home's involved. The doctor has to sign off on the death certificate. So just understand what's truth, what's fact, what's fiction when you're selling final expense. I want to try to protect you, but you will have clients in your career at some point pass away under 2 years, and you want to understand, what does it really, really look like? Well, it looks like you're going to fill out some claim forms. They're going to ask you questions about replacements. Did this replace any company or not? Know that. Have that information clearly written. Know the time and date that you sold Mrs. Susie, Mr. Joe. Make sure you know that time and date. If someone else, let's say the husband was in the background, have a good note. Yeah, husband was there. When I was asking Mrs. Susie these health questions, if he was there in the background, just write it down. It won't hurt you. Hey, good knowledge for you to know. And this will help you be more powerful, be more professional when you're helping these sweet people in a death claim. These companies, as long as they were honest about their health, they're going to be handing a big check to these families and just taking care of them the way that you are all about. And that's the people that they leave behind. It's all about them. It's not about us, but they'll bring the right check. They'll bring the big check to these great people when everything's right. But if things are wrong, I'll tell you, it's going to be nothing but the money back to them plus tiny bit of interest. And that is no fun. But believe it or not, there's some people that want to lie to you. You can't prevent that sometimes. But as an insurance agent, you ask all the health questions, get it documented, document everything. If you're a face-to-face insurance agent, be really observant. If you see like a blanket covering something or a towel covering something at a kitchen table, make sure to talk about it. Hey, Mrs. Johnson, if, what's that? Ask these questions like a curious little 5-year-old. I was in a home where I asked, are you on oxygen? Do you have any of this? Do you have any of that? They told me no. And then I saw a blanket covering something. And I go, hey, what's under there if you don't mind me asking? And guess what? Everything stopped. She had an oxygen tank under there. She was trying to lie to me. And I left the house, couldn't do a thing for her at that time. And that was the end of it. I let her know that, there were some other options that she could look into with a 2-year wait. They were guaranteed issue. She wasn't interested in that, but you've got to, as a face-to-face insurance agent, be very observant, be like a detective in that home where you're kind of uncovering things that may be around you just so that you can help that client in real ways. That client was attempting to lie to me in the process of me going through a fact finder with her, asking her health questions, and just when things aren't lining up, and maybe you're being lied to. Just don't be afraid to ask some additional questions to unpack maybe their health problems, because those problems are going to come up either when you try to write that policy and then you find out, oh, there's oxygen anyway. That's not good. Or if they die prematurely, because if somebody has a lot of health problems that they're not being real with you on, this really can happen. And I want to make sure that you put the family in the best position, but also you as an insurance agent, you want to be in that place where you've got confidence in all these great contracts that you're placing, that you're doing the right thing for the families, because when they leave this planet, you want to make sure you place the right check in the family's hands. So I hope this helps you when you're dealing with a death claim prior to 2 years. I've faced this in my career, never had any problems with it. But if you let the family know what the process looks like, they will be more at peace with what will take place. Hope this helps you in some small ways and some big ways. Have a great day. If I can do anything to serve you, reach out at jasonfinalexpense.com. Have an amazing tomorrow. This year is almost done, but I know you're ready to help some great people. They really need you. But use voice apps as much as possible when you're selling final expense insurance, or if you're a face-to-face insurance agent. Another best practice that I'll leave with you is if you're taking paper applications or even an e-app, I would like you to use a best practice of printing off the health questions portion of the e-app. Print that in its entirety, even when you're taking e-apps in the house and there's nothing like electronically that you're blasting to the consumer. Take a health question from that carrier, print a bunch of them, put it in your briefcase. And then after you've done all the health questions where you've checked the truthful answers being no or yes, I want you to mirror this on a piece of paper. This same health questions that you have on the applications, just print it. So you've got a lot of them in that home, and then have that client with their own living, breathing hands check those same health questions in the box, and then have them initial every no in reference to that health claim, and then put it with your fact finder. Because then if the client ever passes away under the 2-year mark, you can say, listen, we did an e-app in the house with Mrs. Susie. She answered all these questions, yes and no. I accurately recorded her responses. Oh, by the way, I gave her a paper application of a health application questionnaire, and she checked the same questions, no, yet again. And then she had to reread them, and I had her initial every single one of her health responses. This will really protect you so that if a client ever passes away, you've got documentation to just show that you did due diligence, you did everything right. And then, oh, by the way, you went so far above and beyond by having the consumer initial a paper application health questionnaire with the same health questions. It'll keep you safe. It'll keep the family safe, but also let the family see that you had her or him answer the health questions, and you weren't doing something in the industry called clean sheeting, which is what some really unscrupulous agents do. They walk into the homes, they don't ask the health questions, they do an e-app, and they go sign right here, and nothing could be more disgusting. But I've seen it happen in this industry from some agents that aren't in the industry any longer, but just want to protect you. So by doing a couple little things maybe that seem tedious, it'll take care of you and make you more confident when you handle a death claim prior to the 2-year mark. Now, once you're beyond the 2-year mark with a death claim, it's the fastest thing on the planet. It's really quick, but it still doesn't happen within 12 hours or sometimes same day. It's really quick though, but it's not that quick. You're talking a death claim paid out within days, not hours like some people are telling people. So I hope this protects you. If I can do anything to serve you, reach out at jasonfinalexpense.com. If you've got anything you'd like me to take up for you in the topics, put it down in the comments. I hope this serves you today, my friends. Have a powerful day. We'll see you soon.